Welcome again to Crafting an Approach to Digital Literacy. My name is Kate Eppler. I am the Digital Equity Manager for San Francisco Public Library, and I'm here with Ray.
Yes. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. My name is Ray LaChaux. I'm the Digital Equity Manager for the SF Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Okay, here we go. We did start the recording, I think. We are recording. Good for us. Thank you to the conference sponsors, San Jose State School of Information and Urban Libraries Council. And let's get into it. What do we mean by digital literacy?
Yes, digital literacy. I know the term is often used in different ways, but today, if you're reading the definition, and I don't want to insult you all, I know you're librarians, but digital literacy is the ability to use information and communication technology to find, elevate, create, communicate information requiring both cognitive and technical skills. Shout out to American Library Association for Digital Literacy Task Force. Really, so for the city, we really take a look at some guiding principles. Number one, equity, not equality. There's a difference. We want everyone to have what they need to succeed. And that looks different for different demographics and different groups. Deep community engagement. We got to connect with the community and have their voice woven into the fabric of the policies that you're making for the city. Another one is be agile. We'll try new things to learn continuously because the world of tech, the digital world, is constantly changing and ever evolving. Lastly, kind of tying to deep community engagement is be inclusive. I mean, we have a diverse array of people who live in San Francisco and we want to meet them where they are. So what you see here are two pictures. One kind of depicts our three-legged stool approach to digital equity. Number one, high quality internet access, right? We want everyone to have a high standard of speed so they're not limited in what they can see, digest, and enjoy in the digital realm. So we liken that to see if you look in the lower right-hand corner, that's the road and the car. So the internet is like the road. So we don't want any speed bumps. We don't want any potholes. We want folks to enjoy their internet experience without interruptions. And sometimes, that's not the case. And so, but the city has a commitment to high quality internet connection, whether that be a wired solution or open Wi-Fi access solution. Next is high quality devices, right? And we liken that to the car. Now, if someone has a car that doesn't have the specs that it needs to get on the road safely and reliably, then we need to do something about that. So we need high quality car/devices on the road. And then lastly, we need high quality driver's education, right? Because a lot of us I'll speak for myself, got behind the wheel without a license and just thought that intuitively we can just navigate the road. But there's some safety fundamentals, there's some security fundamentals, there's things that we need to learn and know and convey to our audience and our clients. They need to practice before getting on the road. So we need all three: internet, high quality devices, and high quality digital literacy training.
And the digital literacy training is really what we're kind of focusing on today. Thank you, Ray. Before we get started talking about different ways to set that up in your libraries, different ways to get that done, I feel like we really need to acknowledge that we're all doing this on the fly all the time. Our libraries are open, they are a treasure, and people are walking in and asking you their digital literacy questions at the desk all day long. So what we're really talking about today is scheduled help. When you want to put it on the calendar, when you want to do something and sort of plan for it in advance, different ways to set that up. Whenever, as we're talking and as we're thinking about different ways to kind of provide this training and how people access this help, some things to keep in mind are, what do you know about your community? What kinds of devices are they already using? what kind of help or training are they looking for? What are some of the questions you're coming in? What is that are coming into you? What does the census tell you about people's level of connection at home and the devices that they have? And these are some models that we have tried in San Francisco based on, what we're hearing and seeing from our community. One of them is the one-on-one help session. So this is like scheduled one-on-one help time where there's lots of people in one place and we say, come on down, this day, this time, and bring your questions. They could be device questions. People will be bringing in their own laptops or phones or other sorts of computer things. And we also have computers available in the room for when it's really like a skills-based thing. And, they need to have that training like with a device already in place. And then everybody sort of pitches in and gets to work. And sometimes even our city librarian pitches in. This is the famous Michael Lambert providing some help to a community member at a one-on-one digital device drop-in session. Pros of this model are that, the learning is going to be very relevant for the learners because they're coming in for their own question that's motivating them to get help. And that it's going to be something that is meaningful for them and that they take away some valuable information. This kind of thing can take place anywhere with Wi-Fi. We do this in the libraries, and in San Francisco, there are a number of sort of coalition organizations and other community organizations that will sort of do this in a traveling fashion. It could happen at a community center. It could happen any location where the community is. So you can sort of pop this up anywhere. This is also, we found this very helpful for tough questions that come in during the week. So it's a computer question. You'd love to have the time. Oh, you don't quite have it now. Having something like this on the schedule as being a place where people can come back and get the help that they're requesting from you can be really a benefit as you're sort of getting through your regular day. Cons are that it takes a ton of people. You kind of have to have the people for this. So when those community groups are getting together to launch it, we're really tapping everybody. It's an all call every time we do it for our department, the Bridge at Maine, for volunteers, for whoever we can get in the room. So this one really does take people. It doesn't have to be a one-on-one match. You can sort of circulate and help multiple people, but you're looking at bodies in the room. Another model that we've tried that has worked for us has been the multi-session class. So this is like sign up for the 6-week course. We're going to be together all throughout this time. This is a good approach for us when we're trying to help people build like workplace literacy skills, for instance. It allows you to do things like do an incentive for participation. So, come to 6 classes and, get a refurbished laptop maybe, or even a certificate can be motivating for people. Advantages to this model are also that it builds some community. People are seeing the same group, week after week, and they can learn to trust each other and sort of feel like it's a club, and it's also a safe place for them to practice, ask their questions, and even potentially help each other. We've run some multi-week sessions actually in partnership with Ray's Office of Digital Equity. And at the end of the scheduled time, participants were like, when's the next session? Like what's next? And Ray, I know you have a lot of experience with this model as well. Did you want to add anything there?
Yeah, it's really just what you said. It's really understanding your audience, and you make no assumptions about where a person's digital literacy skills are. That's the #1 golden rule. And you have folks who are super comfortable, and I don't want to spoil the next slide, but you have folks who are comfortable with navigating on, maybe mobile phones more than they are navigating the computer. So kind of being sensitive to that, and make sure you're surveying your class or your, the folks that you're engaging to see where they are. I know in my experience, when we had to navigate migrate information from, live and direct instruction to, during COVID to an LMS, we had to choose a LMS, learning management system, that was, compatible with a mobile phone, like your Obama phone, so we can reach, marginalized, disenfranchised low-income folks who can only afford a phone. And so we chose Canvas, as an LMS due to that factor.
Yeah, so again, when we're putting this stuff together, it's not in a vacuum. It's really about what your community is working with and what they're bringing to you and what they need. And then the last model we wanted to touch on briefly before we're going to ask, like, what have you guys been doing? What's working for you? Is a half and half model, essentially. And shout out to Alan Wong, who is in this photo and has been doing this with Chinese speaking seniors at the main library at San Francisco. But there's just a little bit of instruction. It's like a half hour of a hot topic, show you how to do something. It tends to be mobile based when we do it, but that could be anything really. And then after that initial instruction, there's time to practice and get one-on-one help with practicing, or ask another question that's been bugging you, something else you wanted to know. So this has worked out for us, I think, partly because you almost have like a double-pronged marketing push for this, right? It's like you'll learn something new, and you can get help with that thing that's motivating you to come in. You can get help with the question that you need help with. It's also less of a staff time lift in the sense that you're planning for less instruction, you're planning for less sort of formal class time. And then when you're doing the one-on-one help, that period is also shorter, so it's less of a bite on the schedule there. So these are some of the models that we have tried lately that we have found are working well for in-person one-on-one digital literacy instruction. But at this point, I'd like to sort of take a pause and see if anybody has a model they want to share or a question they want to ask about something that we've talked about so far. We could do the chat. Juliana will read it out for us, I think. Thank you, Juliana. Or if you want to raise your Zoom hand, we can do unmuting. All right, never mind.
Well, no, I can speak up. Sorry. Part of this makes me sad. So I've been, but also empowered. So prior to the pandemic, we would have closer to the one-on-one, but we would have what we called Appy Hours. I'm in Santa Monica, where people would bring in their devices and we cluster them by type. So everybody who had one particular, like a tablet or a iPhone or an Android phone or a laptop, would be clustered together so that they could learn from their own questions, but also from the questions of other people, which also reduced the staff intensive. So usually it would be on average 2 librarians and 2 of our library assistants who would be doing this. We're currently looking at whether or not we'll be able to resume these, but we're also looking at seeing if we can get literacy volunteers to be able to do this. They already do drop-in. Well, they're trying to restart drop-in hours for the literacy center, which also helps with additional things like filling out forms, which we as city employees really don't do. So the mix of questions. So that's the main model. I mean, we've done series of classes. I'm happy to learn about the half class, half one-on-one. That's actually a different model that I will present to my people. But right now we're just super short staffed. So and also short houred. So that's the way it is.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I just want to, thank you to all the world's volunteers. Thank you to all the world's volunteers who will, reach out for help at the library and also will sign up for something and come sometimes, because that's what a lot of these sessions are sort of making use of, as volunteers who come like once a month, a couple times a month. Doesn't have to be like, a hard and fast weekly commitment. That's helped us out a little bit.
We also have 2 more comments in the chat for you.
Okay, thank you.
The first one is from Mary Beth. She said, we have used one-on-one for the most part, but our local community college is teaching a digital literacy class at our library this fall. Good place for partnership.
Yeah, thank you.
And one more comment from Yang. Can you provide some examples of how public libraries can outreach these types of models via in-person, collaborating with community partners to spread the news, social media, radio, website, etc.? What has worked well?
Great question. I think we're going to touch on that a little bit more later. So I'm going to hold off on some of the community partner discussion there. But this is a model that can travel. And so that's one thing that's worked for us is, engaging with other organizations that are doing things like pop-up help and then promoting what's happening at the library that way. And also shout out to our marketing team who really helps us get the word out about things that are happening at the library. They do an amazing job. And I think they're presenting later on this afternoon. But I would say, like, really taking advantage of the portability of some of this to sort of have the library offsite, and then making sure, as you're talking about digital literacy, to also fold in your library shout outs and your library promotion. Because having a friendly face that people have seen maybe at their community center or their senior center, and now they know where to find you, we all know that's powerful. So I've talked too much, and I just wanted to briefly touch on this before we talk more about partnerships and thinking about who you can sort of include on your journey. And this is, I just want to sort of acknowledge that during COVID, we opened a new branch online, right? And a lot of what a lot of us were doing was digital literacy training because it was so important during that time. Acknowledging that there is sort of inherently something kind of funny about trying to teach technology in a technology mediated way, right? That they have to have, a device to join Zoom from and some basic level of comfort to get there. But I have personally taught Zoom on Zoom, and it was a kick because we could all turn our cameras off and turn our cameras on at the same time and stuff like that. And so we know it's possible. This chart here is, it's actually registrations from our big SF Tech Week, which happens in May. And it shows sort of some of the decision making that we have to do around this, because I assumed that our older patrons would want the in-person, and at the very sort of our most seniors, that was true. That you can see that for in-person events, if you were 75 and up, that was the clear winner. But many of our older patrons as well were actually, registering for the Zoom classes and trying to engage with us online and sending in comments and survey responses saying, please keep doing this online. It's very convenient. I can watch the recording later, and I feel COVID safe this way. So, things to think about when you're scheduling is, where is it going to take place? Will it be online? Is this subject matter best for online? Is it like a share out? Is it kind of a middle skills thing? Or do I really need to help people practice along with me? It's an interesting world these days. But also thinking about who can help, who else is out there in your community that can amplify you?
Yes, that is a big component of the work that we do is, partnering with other agencies who have the capacity that we don't, and have the subject matter expertise that we don't, or have the resources that we don't. And so we just put this slide together to kind of talk about the different types of relationships you can develop to support, the work that you do and the folks you're trying to impact. So for example, prime example, Kate and I do a lot of work together. Anytime we're promoting events or resources, we always publish the rich resources that the public library offers. And I was just blown away with all the resources libraries have. I think it's underrated and overlooked. Another partner is the Tech Exchange for our California folks. Or Bay Area folks. Tech Exchange donates computers. They actually donated computers to one of our affordable housing sites at Sunnydale, which was a huge help because we wired Sunnydale for internet, and we have some new developments on site. So we wanted to make sure everybody was enjoying the internet, but they need something to enjoy the internet on, hence the computers. Actually, our office, the mayor's office, has grantees or nonprofit organizations we fund. Chinatown Community Development is a great example of a good or an excellent digital literacy training program. They actually have something called the Intergenerational Lab, where they take secondary or high school to young adult age youth and have them kind of train and develop older adults who are trying to go through the citizen naturalization process. So it's really an exchange, and one fortifies the other. Human IT, digital training. So Human IT, and this is like a national organization. And so they do everything soup to nuts when it comes to digital services. So when you're talking about facilitating and managing a computer donation or offering low cost internet options or tech support. They do it all. And so having them as a partner, they also donated computers to the African American Arts and Cultural Center right here in San Francisco for a senior digital literacy training program. Another partner is another set of partners are folks who are in multifamily housing, property managers, owners. They should have a commitment to developing community. So we work closely with a lot of property managers, with their residential service counselors, and educate them on the ACP program, the Affordable Connectivity Program, so they can offer this benefit to residents, and they don't have to take that money and spend it towards their internet bill. They can take that money and spend it on food or anything that is beneficial or we feel can add value. We'll share with the residential service counselors. Another unique relationship and another grantee is Shelter Tech. Shelter Tech, they've in partnership with MoCD, HSH, which is the Office of Homeless Support, and other agencies, departments in the city, we were able to develop a service guide, which is a one-stop shop if you're trying to figure out where your closest barrier removal resource is. So if you need access to a food bank, if you need access to housing or things like that, you can go to the SF Service Guide. You can actually look it up, Google it, and it asks a series of questions to get a granular look at where should we point this person. We need to be targeted about the resources we direct them to. Another partner, Dev Mission, they're a local nonprofit, been around for a little while, but the ED, he's been around for a very long time, one of the pioneers of digital equity. He goes to affordable housing sites and does refurbathons, right? Where we would take old computers, but still specs are up to date, refurbish them, and community, affordable housing residents would get the computers after they've done the digital literacy training or, teaching them how to navigate supportive service websites like Dahlia, which gives folks access to housing. Lastly, I want to talk about this, but not least, is the Digital Skills and Entrepreneurship Playbook, which we developed in partnership with the private sector. We actually worked with Salesforce, and through this program, we were able to work with a number of their product managers and software developers and whatnot, and figure out a way to create a resource, a training, a playbook that was able to take brick and mortar businesses, whether you provide a product or service, and where you've been for a long time relying on time, place, and space to get sales and to generate your business, you can now do everything online and not only rely on local exposure, but a national exposure or international exposure, depending on what you do. And I think, Kate, I don't know if you've shared that resource in the chat.
I'm just putting them in the chat now.
Okay. So you'll have access to that. And then there's an example of some more resources in the partnership, which yielded from the partnership with the SF Public Library and SF Mayor's Office. So
links in the chat. Ray brought materials for you guys. So please, before you go, and I understand that we're getting close to time, click on these, open them up, check them out later. These were tremendous resources from San Francisco Office of Digital Equity. Ray, thank you so much for bringing them and sharing playbooks to take you through it as you do this work. So I know we're short on time. I really want to call out, a lot of the awesome partnerships that Ray was sharing about just now. They're also bringing in another leg of the stool, going back to the car and the driver's manual on the road. When we're talking about digital literacy, if you can wrap in another one of those key elements to your opportunities at the library, it's going to be even more impactful. And so if there are organizations in your area that are doing things like device refurbishment or device donation, or hooking people up for the ACP broadband benefit, you put those things together and you've got an even stronger offering than you had before. It's tight, but I think we could do a question or comments, or we really don't want to keep you guys. I know you have another session. But what do you think? What leaps to mind?
So I'm thinking folks can unmute themselves if they have something they want to ask.
Yes, unmute.
Feel free.
You can unmute, you can chat it. Thank you again for joining us today for this quick hit on an important topic.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Click raise links.
Yeah, use the resources. It's
definitely
yours.
Click the links, click the clicky.
Consider it yours. Use it.
And I know you're all doing it. I know we're all doing it in libraries all the time. So thank you. Thank you for the work you're doing.
Yes.
Let's all keep it up.
Yes. And thank you, Kate.
Thank
for
you,
inviting
Ray.
me.
Thank you so much for joining us. Ray is moonlighting with the librarians today.
That's right.
I told him
need
we
a
were a wild
badge.
crowd. I don't know. I should stop recording is what I should do.
Okay, good. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed.